Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are really getting into something that, well, it didn't just stir things up. It sent actual shockwaves, financial and legal ones, through the global tech scene. Think Silicon Valley, think Bangalore. We're diving deep into the sudden, frankly massive increase in the H-1B visa fee. And as you probably know, that's the main visa for skilled foreign workers coming to the U.S., especially in tech. And here's the number that kicked off all the chaos. The Trump administration slapped a one-time fee onto new H-1B petitions. Ready for this? $100,000.
100,000, yeah.
Compared to, what was it before? Around $215 for the basic filing. So yeah, that's nearly a 500 times increase.
Wow.
It's an incredible leap. And that's exactly why we need to unpack this today. Our mission, really, is to look at what the administration said they wanted to achieve, which mostly centered around protecting American jobs.
Yeah. And then weigh that against the huge legal mess and the economic fallout it triggered. And importantly, we need to look at the counterarguments. You know, why many analysts and even big names in tech are saying this will actually push jobs out of the U.S., maybe even stifle innovation here.
Okay, let's start right there with the immediate reaction. This news drops September 21st. Sources say basically panic ensued. Why so sudden? And who felt it the most?
Well, the suddenness came from the sheer scale of the change, right? $100,000 overnight. And the panic. It was heavily concentrated on India professionals.
Because they hold the most H-1Bs.
Exactly. Over 70% of all H-1B holders are from India. And the initial terror, really, was about the specifics. Was this $100 K fee going to be annual? Did it apply if you already had a visa and just needed to renew it? Or even if you just left the country for a bit and needed to come back?
Right. I heard stories about people literally racing back to the U.S. border to try and beat a midnight deadline. That sounds incredibly stressful.
It absolutely was. But to be fair, the administration did move relatively quickly to clear up that specific point. That was a major source of anxiety.
So what was the clarification?
They confirmed the $100,000 fee is only for new petitions filed after September 21st. Critically, it's a one-time fee, not annual. And it explicitly does not hit renewals or people already holding an H-1B.
Ah, okay. So if you were already in the system, you were safe from that immediate hit.
For the moment, yes. But think about it. The door for bringing new talent into the country. That door didn't just get smaller. It basically got bricked up for many companies.
$100,000 hurdle for a new hire. I mean, that completely changes the math on hiring globally. So what was the administration's official line? Why such a dramatic move?
The official rationale was about curbing what they called widespread abuse of the H-1B system. The claim being that this abuse displaced American workers.
Okay. And did they back that up with anything specific?
They did cite some numbers. White House officials mentioned that the percentage of IT workers on H-1Bs had more than doubled since 2003.
Doubled. Okay. But wait, you mentioned protecting U.S. workers. They also cited an unemployment rate for recent U.S. computer science grads at 6.1%. Is that figure generally considered high enough to warrant such a drastic policy change? A $100,000 fee?
Well, that's exactly the debate, isn't it? The administration's stance was essentially that any displacement is too much. Taylor Rogers, the White House spokesperson, framed it quite clearly. The fee was meant to, and I quote, discourage companies from spamming the system and driving down wages.
Spamming the system, meaning filing lots of applications.
Presumably. The idea being the fee acts as a sort of value test. If a company really needs that specific foreign worker, they'll find the money. If not, they won't file.
And didn't Commerce Secretary Lutnick have a particularly blunt take on this?
Oh, absolutely. Howard Lutnick was very direct. He told reporters basically, either the person is very valuable to the company in America, or they're going to depart, and the company's going to hire an American. Valuable people only for America. Stop the nonsense.
Wow. Stop the nonsense. Very clear message there.
Extremely clear. It's a binary choice. Hire American or prove the foreign worker is worth this extraordinary premium.
It's hard to discuss the value of foreign talent without bringing up Elon Musk. He's obviously a huge figure, and he actually started his U.S. career on an H-1B himself, right?
That's right, he did.
And when this fee news broke, some of his older posts resurfaced, and they were, well, let's just say forceful.
Forceful is one word for it.
Yeah. He didn't just offer an economic defense of the H-1B program. It felt deeply personal. He said, essentially, I'm here, the people who built SpaceX and Tesla are here because of the H-1B. And then came that quote that just exploded online.
The F-bomb quote.
Yeah. Take a big step back and fuck yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. pretty direct.
That kind of raw, almost visceral reaction, it really shows how fundamental some entrepreneurs see this visa pathway, not just as a policy tool, but as something existential.
But it wasn't just defense, was it? What's interesting is he also pivoted.
Exactly. That's crucial. He didn't just defend the status quo. He immediately followed up by saying the program is flawed. He used words like broken and needs major reform. He said, no question that the H-1B system needs to be overhauled.
So his position was more nuanced. It's vital, but it needs fixing.
Precisely. Vital but flawed.
And did he offer any ideas on how to fix it? Because his proposals sounded quite different from just a massive flat fee.
It was very different. His idea seemed aimed at achieving maybe similar goals to the administration's preventing wage depression, prioritizing high-value roles, but through a different mechanism.
What did he suggest?
He proposed two main things. First, significantly raise the minimum salary required for an H-1B worker. Second, add a yearly cost for actually maintaining the visa.
So not a one-time entry fee, but an ongoing cost.
Right. His reasoning was that this would make it materially more expensive to hire from overseas than domestically. It keeps the door open for truly high-skilled, high-paid talent, but it removes that incentive. Some critics worry about using the H-1B simply to hire cheaper labor.
That makes sense. It targets the potential for abuse without just slamming the door shut with a $100K fee that hits everyone, regardless of the role or salary. A small startup hiring one crucial engineer gets hit just as hard as a huge consulting firm.
Exactly. And that perceived lack of nuance, that sort of blunt force approach, is where the legal challenges really started heating up.
Right, the legal backlash. What was the main argument there?
Well, critics immediately labeled the move ludicrously lawless. That's a direct quote. The core legal point is about statutory authority.
Meaning, does the administration actually have the power to do this?
Pretty much. The argument is that Congress has authorized the government to charge fees only to cover the cost of processing the applications, the administrative work.
Okay, cost recovery.
Right. But a $100,000 fee, that's clearly not about covering paperwork costs. It's either designed to raise revenue or, more likely in this case, to act as a deterrent, to shape policy. And the argument is that the administration doesn't have the legal right to set fees for that purpose without Congress explicitly saying so.
It's basically using fees to make law, bypassing Congress.
That's the essence of the challenge. And we should remember, this wasn't the first attempt. The administration tried similar things back in 2020.
And what happened then?
A court blocked those attempts. Mostly on procedural grounds, they hadn't followed the proper rulemaking process, the Administrative Procedure Act. But the underlying issue of authority was definitely there. Legal experts seem pretty confident this new fee will face, and likely lose, similar court challenges.
So you've got this highly questionable legal basis on one side. Then you have the economic arguments suggesting the whole policy might backfire anyway. Let's talk about that GTRI analysis again, the Indian think tank.
Right, the Global Trade Research Initiative. Their core argument is pretty stark. This policy is going to hurt the U.S. way more than it hurts India.
How do they figure that? The logic seems to be, make foreign labor expensive, companies hire Americans instead.
Yeah, that's the administration's theory. Right. But GTRI challenges that directly. They point out that many of the big Indian IT firms operating in the U.S., they already hire a significant percentage of locals.
Oh, I didn't realize that. What kind of numbers are we talking?
Often between 50 and 80% local hires already on their U.S. payrolls. So the pool of jobs that might theoretically be returned to Americans by this fee, GTRI suggests it's much smaller than implied.
Okay, so if companies aren't going to hire significantly more locals and they can't afford or justify the $100,000 fee for the specific foreign talent they wanted, where does that work actually go?
This is the crucial prediction from GTRI. They say the main result will be an acceleration of offshoring.
Meaning the work leaves the U.S. entirely.
Exactly. Companies will look at the $100K price tag for an H-1B hire, compare it to doing the same work remotely from India where skilled labor can cost like 80% less, and they'll choose offshoring.
So the result isn't more U.S. jobs, but potentially fewer.
That's the forecast. Fewer H-1B petitions filed, yes, but also less local hiring than there might have been otherwise, and potentially slower innovation inside the U.S. because you're losing access to that global talent pool or pushing the work itself overseas.
Wow. So GTRI basically says it's an economic own goal for the U.S. They even suggested India should leverage the talent that might return home.
Right. Turn a U.S. policy negative into a domestic positive by boosting their own digital capabilities.
Okay, so that's the economic analysis. What about the direct reaction from India, the government, the tech industry there? They're the most directly impacted group.
The Indian government's response was diplomatically careful but serious. The Ministry of External Affairs, the MEA, said they were reviewing it, but they also put out a statement warning the move was, and this is their phrase, likely to have humanitarian consequences.
Humanitarian consequences.
Because of.
The disruption of families, presumably. People whose plans were suddenly thrown into chaos. NASSCOM, which is the big Indian IT industry association, also weighed in.
What was their concern? Their main points were about business continuity, how companies are supposed to operate with this sudden massive cost, and also the incredibly abrupt deadline. Basically, a one-day notice for a policy shift of this magnitude. They argued it disrupts global business planning.
Yeah, that lack of a transition period seems like a major issue. And we should probably mention this H-1B fee hike didn't happen in a vacuum, right? The timing coincided with announcements about other types of visas.
That's a really important piece of context, yes. At roughly the same time, the administration was rolling out or talking up other visa categories aimed squarely at the wealthy.
Right, there was the talk of a $1 million gold card. What was that supposed to be?
Officials suggested it might replace the existing EB1 and EB2 categories. Those are the green card pathways for people with extraordinary ability or advanced degrees, basically, highly skilled professionals. So potentially replacing skill-based paths with a wealth-based one.
And then there was the even higher tier.
Yes, the proposed $5 million Trump Platinum Card. The main perk there seemed to be allowing wealthy foreigners to spend up to 270 days a year in the U.S. without becoming subject to U.S. taxes on their income earned outside the U.S.
So let me get this straight. They're putting up a massive financial barrier for skilled workers, the engineers, the scientists.
The people who actually build things, often, yes.
While simultaneously creating new pathways or making existing ones easier for people whose primary qualification is just having a lot of money.
That contrast is stark, and it wasn't lost on observers. It sends a very clear signal about priorities, cracking down on skilled labor while welcoming high-net-worth individuals.
And this played into the political situation in India, too, didn't it?
It absolutely did. Opposition parties in India jumped on it, criticizing their own government for, they argued, failing to protect India's interests in dealing with the U.S., especially since this happened around the time bilateral trade talks were supposed to be getting underway again. It highlighted this sort of diplomatic angle, the U.S. seemingly preferring foreign capital over foreign talent, unless that talent comes with a hefty entrance fee.
Okay, so pulling all these threads together, we have this policy, the $100K H-1B fee. Its stated aim is protecting American jobs.
Right.
But the strong consensus among analysts, industry bodies, even entrepreneurs like Musk, who use the program, is that it's more likely to do the opposite. Push skilled work and innovation offshore.
That really is the central conflict here. You have this immediate, very high financial barrier, the $100K fee, clashing with predictions about long-term damage to U.S. competitiveness. The administration went for a very blunt tool to fix perceived flaws in the system.
A tool with shaky legal foundations?
Exactly. And that blunt tool has triggered this huge backlash, both legal and economic, with many arguing the supposed cure is far worse than the disease.
It really does leave you with a fundamental question, doesn't it? And maybe this is the thought we can leave our listeners with today. If you make it financially impossible for anyone, except maybe the absolute biggest tech giants, to access top global talent, if startups and mid-sized companies are effectively priced out, does that actually protect American workers in the long run?
Or does it just mean that the next groundbreaking company, the next SpaceX or Tesla, gets built somewhere else, in a country that's maybe more welcoming to that specialized high-skilled talent, regardless of how much money they have in the bank when they arrive?
A very potent question. And this policy is almost certainly going to be tied up in the courts for a long time.
Months, probably years. And the outcome really could shape how skilled talent moves around the world for the foreseeable future.
Well, thanks for diving deep with us into this complex issue today.
Glad to be here.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.